I'm sharing one of the most insane conversations I've honestly had. I sat down with a guy whose literal mission is, and I quote, to end poverty, cure cancer, and disrupt Hollywood. And the craziest part, he's actually doing it. Paul Ahlstrom is a venture capitalist, serial entrepreneur, and honestly, just a straight up visionary. In the first part of this episode, we go over Paul's origin story. How did he get started? What was his first companies? How did he get to his first exit as an entrepreneur himself? Then about halfway through, we decide to go a little bit deeper, and he starts telling me about his mission. How is he actually living his mission of ending poverty? How did he start his cancer institute? What is he doing to solve it and cure it for hundreds and thousands of people around the world? And finally, how is he disrupting Hollywood and making that a tangible goal? He believes that storytelling is the ultimate battleground for human progression. And the way that he talks about his personal values, his investments, everything, you can see him living that every single day. So grab a notebook, take some notes on this, and let's lock in. Paul, thank you for joining. This is going to be fun. We have a similar connection, Jackson, over at Space Station, and I have been hearing your name for the last 6 to 12 months on his original mentor that he thinks very highly of. So I'm excited to kind of dive in and chat for a little bit.
Jackson's the best. He is a super abundant, high energy guy.
He is. And obviously you trained him up well. I do a lot of deals with him on the venture capital side now. His ability to underwrite, think through long term. He's got a good mind.
He gives me too much credit. Right?
He's got a great mind. So I kind of want to start and dive in. You have had a phenomenal, incredible career inside of the venture capital world. Really, before that, you were an entrepreneur that kind of fell into venture capital a little bit and then have expanded it quite literally worldwide. Mm-hmm. So let's walk through kind of how you got into venture. You graduated college, correct, and started a tech company? Did you go right into starting that company? Walk me through kind of your early career.
Well, I thought I had graduated, and then I didn't actually graduate because they wouldn't accept the transfer credit. So I went to California, and I started a software business with these last two classes hanging over my head. and then luckily that business failed. I say luckily because, I love the path I'm on, so you don't know what the other path would have looked like. But the software business was doing great until we had a company killer bug that went out in a release of the software.
Wow.
And it was a tax software, so our sales cycle was like 3 months out of every year. So it literally blew up the company. So that was a bad day. I was a millionaire in my early 20s, and then I wasn't.
Lost it. Wow.
So I thought, well, it might be a good time to go back and take those last two classes.
Yeah.
And so I went back to school and retook the classes. And at that time I was grumpy, but that's when I met Jenny, my future wife.
Cool.
And so, things happen, and you can't really get too angry about having to go back and do it. So while I was in school, I was retaking these last two classes, and I was bored. And so every year since I've been a kid, literally since I've been a little kid, I've started up a business, and school was kind of an annoyance to me. Yeah. So from the lemonade stand to the skateboard business to the lawn mowing business, and then through college, I created a whole series of startups, but they're really small, uninteresting ideas. I had a college newspaper, which was fun, with my buddy Mark Tullis and the gang, and then we did. I had a college dance club. It was a great way I had $50 left, or I had to leave school. Yeah. And I turned $50 into a dance club, and created the Ivy Tower Dance Club, and it was a great way to pay for school and meet girls. Yeah. Which wasn't bad. Then I started a college hangout, jazz club, and comedy club, and that was called Backstage Cafe. And I just kept going. I would build them, tank them, sell them, move on to the next one. And then I went to California. I started a software during a break, and that wasn't software. I started a water purification service business. And while I was doing that, this guy says, listen, you seem like a really smart kid, and you have a lot of potential. And there are 24 hours in a day. You can dig ditches, or you can build rocket ships. Wouldn't it be more fun to go to the moon? I said, what do you mean? He said, you are not thinking very big. He goes, this is never going to take you to where you want to go. And I thought, man, nobody had ever given me permission to think big. Yeah. I didn't think I had earned the right to think big. And so I was working on small, uninteresting service business. At the time, I thought they were neat, but there's no leverage in them. So I went home and I gave the keys to the business to my younger brother, Marv. I said, it's all yours, and I'm moving on.
Wow.
And what I learned was you have the same hours in the day, and you can build with a big idea. It's easier to attract individuals. It's easier to raise money, and it doesn't take any more time. It's just, what are you doing with your time? And so my next business was the software business that didn't work out.
Yep.
And then I ended up going and launching back to college. And so I'm in college, and I started a nonprofit recycling business. And it hired homeless people. I created Provo's first recycling company. So I meet my wife at the time. She goes, okay, let me get this straight. You're almost 30. You hang out with the homeless all day long. You don't have a job. I said, and you haven't graduated from college.
Checking all our boxes.
Yeah. I said, is there anything else on the list? Now, I had this conversation in my mind most likely, and she was a lot kinder than that. But I'm thinking I probably should get a job.
Yeah.
And so I ended up getting married and took my first job working at Folio Corporation and learned the software business that I clearly did not understand when I launched my own software business.
Yeah.
Spent 4 years there. It was the first text retrieval engine business, and they hired me to run product. And I got to work with Kurt Allen, who was just a visionary, and it was a lot of fun. We created this new category of software called search, like Google before Google.
Yeah.
Run floppy drives and then hard drives. Then eventually the internet came along. And I ended up running that business and then taking a piece of the technology and spinning it out from Folio after they sold their business. And I focused on the help desk marketplace, and I created a company called Nolix out of the technology, a license from Folio. And they were very supportive. It was amazing. And we built that company up. I raised venture capital. I learned about the asset class of venture capital at this time. I didn't actually know it existed.
Yeah.
And I raised $5.4 million of venture capital from Utah Ventures and Dominion Ventures, and this was in the late 90s, 97. And at the time, Utah had about $14 million of capital under management across all the funds. So Utah was a capital.
That's tiny.
It was a capital desert.
Yeah, that is nothing for those that don't understand.
That's a small A round today.
Yeah.
And so Jim Dreyfus had just closed the first fund that he had raised. So it was Utah Ventures Fund 2. So that was the first investment in Jim's first fund that he raised. And then Dominion Ventures out of San Francisco came with him. Another guy named Greg Warnock invested into the round. And we sold that company in 19 months from launch to exit.
Jeez. To
a public company in San Diego.
It's a venture capital's dream right there. Quick exit, quick liquidity event. Yeah, you helped his fund.
I helped myself too.
Yeah, you did.
And we end up, and it was right at 1999, and so the markets were going vertical. So we did an all-stock deal to a public company in San Diego, and then we had a lockup period, and the stock doubled, and then it split, and then it doubled again. So our exit ended up becoming almost 4x.
Wow!
Depending on when you exited. So, on my birthday in early March, I ended up selling everything, going to cash. And I was too nervous. I said, "Okay, I made 4x my money. This is not normal.
Yeah,
this
smart.
This is not real." And so that was those are my early days of learning the business, and lots of stories packed in there. But that's basically the background.
And so then once you have that company, when you get that windfall of money, what was your kind of thought process? Was it, I'm going to preserve, stick it in a bank account? Did you start investing? Did you are you an entrepreneur and chuck it all into the next venture? What was your thought process in that windfall?
My first thought process was do nothing.
Yeah.
Sit on it.
Huh.
Don't buy a car.
Yep.
Don't do anything, because it took a while to normalize what it was like to be that wealthy.
Yeah.
And it kind of resets your market, your reality.
Mm-hmm.
What was used to be $5 became $50,000 or $500,000 in terms of relative wealth, and it disoriented you a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I just said, I'm just going to sit on it, and I'm going to And immediately I went to work on my next project. And the next project was helping create the next venture fund in Utah, because I didn't think there was enough capital. And the thesis was everybody in their garage in Utah is working on a startup.
Yeah.
We are not deploying very much capital. The outside investors from outside of Utah were not coming in yet. And we saw a lot of opportunity. And most of the startups I was running into, my friends, were all bootstrapped. Mm-hmm. Angel investments or bootstrapped companies. So we ended up just working on a thesis, and I did 140 meetings with anybody that would talk to me about the need for more capital in Utah, and created a plan, and we ended up launching V-Spring Capital right on the heels of my exit. And so I ended up taking my money and putting some of it into the next fund, and then we were a percentage of the capital of that what ended up being $119.5 million, $120 million venture fund.
Jeez. I think, okay, first off, you sitting on your money, I think is honestly extremely wise counsel for a lot of people. Now, whether that's a $100 million exit or a $10,000 windfall of a tax return, whatever it is, too many people allow lifestyle creep to come too quickly when they have a realization of money. Mm-hmm. That lifestyle creep will happen. Like, everyone experiences it in some way. Now, how far that goes and what that looks like is different for everyone. But taking a breath and understanding that, like, I don't need to spend this. It's not going to burn a hole in my pocket. I can be smart and deploy this safely is extremely smart. And I've also seen it on the other path where I see people have an exit and they don't let lifestyle creep happen, but they get so eager to deploy that capital that they just start chucking it in every investment they can as well. Like, I've seen both
that
sides.
Too.
Like, I've seen both sides of it, where they go buy the stupid car, or they just chuck it at anything that says the word investment in front of it. And I think it's wise counsel to say, take a deep breath. Like, it's okay to sit on money for a little bit and find the right opportunities.
Somebody told me the definition of an entrepreneur is somebody who makes their money in one business and loses it in another.
That's a great definition. And so I think extremely, extremely wise.
But one of the things that helped me with that was a conversation that Jenny and I had early in our marriage. I said, when we have money, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
And if you ask somebody early on, they say, I'm going to go help and serve others. But if you're not already doing it, what the money becomes is rocket fuel on the path you're already on. Mm-hmm. And so we made a decision to say there's the consumption path, and then there's the service path. And I had this conversation with a financial advisor, and I said, listen, I know this is not going to be normal, but tell me how many of the families you manage their money for where the second generation is normal. And not the kids, but the grandkids. Mm-hmm. Can you give me any examples where they're not completely jacked up?
Yep.
And I remember Mark was my financial advisor. I won't say his last name, but he comes back and he goes, I can't actually give you an example. I said, okay, well, I love my future grandkids too much and my kids too much to mess them up. So we said, as a family, we're going to basically go figure out how to go use this as a platform to serve and do fun things, but go serve. And so we ended up writing a will where I didn't give anything to my kids. And one by one, they'd all go sneak in and look at the will and go, what the heck, Dad? And I said, I love you too much to mess you up.
Yeah.
And I don't know what I'm doing yet. But when I figure it out, we'll figure it out together. But in the meantime, I'm giving you this gift that I gave of being hungry and knowing that it depends on you. And I think I served my kids really well with that first advice. And since then, we've started to figure it out. But at the time, you don't know.
Yeah.
And I've seen so many people just mess up their marriages and mess up their kids so quickly by generating entitlement and other issues that it frankly scared me to know what I needed, So we just said, you know what? Let's go that path of service, because that path of consumption, creates walls and barriers, and I don't see very many happy endings there. But service is fun and it brings joy. So let's go do that. And so that's what our life has been, basically.
That is so cool. I've said it often, money's a magnifier. And so many people will say when they're making $30,000, when I make this much money, I'm going to give. Mm-hmm. I'm like, if you're not giving today, that percentage, it will magnify your inability to give. You will always find it.
John Huntsman Sr. taught me that. He was given when he didn't have money to give. Mm-hmm. And so I just watched that example, and he was donating to a widow, and without telling his wife part of his paycheck every month. He's like, I thought we made more than this. Oh no, that's what. So he just put the cash right under her doorstep, and so he just continued that when he made the money.
And what a great lesson for your kids. And honestly, I'm sitting here. I've got 3 kids. We were talking about this before. I've got a 7, 3, and 8-month-old right now. And it's caused a lot of interesting conversations between my wife and I, because we never dreamed that this would be the life that we're living right now.
Yeah.
And so I'm constantly looking for other families and people within my sphere that have that. Exactly what you just said. How can you have money and simultaneously teach good ethics, morals, and values to your kids where they grow up the way that you want them to, and then pass it down a generation? One makes it, one keeps it, one loses it. How do you stop that trend?
Shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves.
Yep, exactly.
My kids didn't know we had money until we moved to Mexico, when we created the first venture fund in Mexico.
Yeah.
And we had to rent a big house. It was 20,000 square feet, because we had 6 kids, and we're like, we could not find a house to fit us.
Yeah.
And my son Clark said, "Are we rich?"
That's funny.
That was the first time that I got asked the question.
That's really funny. Okay, so you're starting to get into venture, and for people that don't know the Utah scene, how smart you were, how ahead of the time you were to do a Utah-only fund, not Utah-only, Utah-emphasis fund.
Oh, it was primarily Utah, yeah.
There is countless VC funds where that's their entire thesis now. I can name 10 right now where if I go sit down with the operators, they'll say, oh, Utah produces per capita more billion-dollar unicorns than any other state.
1 out of 66 VC-backed companies turn into unicorns. According to a Stanford study, it's number 1 in the nation.
Yep. And so,
on per capita.
Per capita. But that's now known. When you did it, it was not known that was going to be the case, but you saw it.
I hoped it.
Yeah.
And I believed it was going to be the case. We had done
1 out of 66.
That's crazy. 1 out of 66 VC-backed companies in Utah.
Wow, that's crazy.
That was the Stanford study. So at the time, our theory was you have the innovation capacity in Utah.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of the number of new business starts on the entrepreneurship activity you had. So the factors of production in the venture ecosystem are innovation capacity, entrepreneurship activity, and investment capacity. And then you have this surrounding bubble of trust. So you take that concept and you say, okay, what is the innovation capacity? Number of patents issued, number of PhDs. What is your innovation capacity of your region? Then the entrepreneurship activity. How many new business starts per 1,000 people in the workforce? And then you have your investment capacity. So do you have a funding continuum from pre-seed to seed to Series A, B, C, public markets? Do you have this continuum of capital that's flowing? And Utah ranked probably one of the bottom 5 in the nation on investment capacity. We had very little capital in the state.
Yeah.
We ranked top 5 on entrepreneurship activity.
Yep.
And then very, very high on innovation capacity. So our thesis was, if we're just missing capital, maybe we could just help provide this gap. And the gap exists in most markets. They call it the flyover zone between the coasts. And so most of the United States has these gaps. And I was asked to be an entrepreneurship advisor to Governor Leavitt at the time. So we went out and researched this ecosystem and did hundreds of meetings to try to figure out what were the gaps in the Utah marketplace. And we had lots of fancy theories, and Pete Bodine, finally just came back to a buddy of mine and just said, just create a fund, Paul. Make it simple. Don't get all fancy. Just create a fund. Utah needs a fund. Just give it a fund. And so we thought we were going to create a business accelerator, a business builder. So we just did a fund. And we just started deploying capital to a cash-starved marketplace. And it was impossible. To answer your question, nobody had a Utah on their investment thesis map. We walk into meetings and say, where are you investing? It's just Utah. Thank you very much for your time. It was almost impossible to get anybody to believe in us. So we raised money from the Utah Angels, which were amazing. Great guys. And so the Utah Angels, many of those angels came in, dozens of family offices. And then a couple of institutions that were focused on economic development. We created an SBIC, So we've created a structure where the federal government gives you CRA credits if you invest into it. So we got a couple of banks, Wells Fargo and Merrill Lynch came in, but they came in with their CRA credit banks. So big names, but this was their community give back programs because they have to put a percentage of their capital back into communities where they do business. And because Utah had industrial loan corporations called ILCs, you had all these back office banks here, and they didn't have enough CRA credits. And so we created a product that they could put their
That's cool.
into our fund and get CRA credits. So kind of hack the system.
Yeah.
And then we got one local institution to believe in us, and that was it. And then we got and the federal government gave us 2 for 1, and so we basically said, okay, this is it. This is Utah, and let's go. But it was, there were no institutional investors would take a risk on Utah. Yeah.
Were the Angels, the Utah Angels, as you called them, was it, oh, this is cool, let me see if you can pull it off in our hometown, or do you think they were actually bought in and believed it like you did?
They were already doing it.
Yeah.
These were the guys that seeded Ancestry.
Yeah.
These were the guys that seeded Omniture. So these were the visionaries that had already were doing, were giving back to the community, and it was a great group of guys. Scott Frazier, Joe Olivier, Greg Warnock, and they were just. And so I was an angel investor with them, and putting money to work, and it seemed like an obvious extension from the work that they were doing.
Yeah, that's really cool. So you had a number of deals. I mean, Google says you're like 100, 125 companies you've invested in. Does that sound accurate?
Probably about 160 now.
160 different companies you've invested in.
Yeah, I have other funds. I've raised and deployed 8 different funds.
What's total raised capital? Do you know?
About $1.6 billion.
Jeez, that's incredible. 1.6 billion deployed is absolutely incredible, especially coming into a market that didn't even have capital raising going on.
Yeah, but not all that in Utah.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's across other markets. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So walk me through that. So you're Utah first, and then...
Yeah, well, we did, my first deal was Ancestry, and then we did Landesk. We spun it out of Intel.
Okay.
And Ed Ekstrom had worked at Landesk. We ended up spinning that out and did that deal with Ed. We did a company called Control4, home automation, that went public here in Utah. We did a company outside of the state called ComScore. Scott Petty led that deal. We did Altiris, which was a competitor to Landesk. Greg Butterfield was the CEO. That went public. We did the crossover investment. And then MetaConnect, Amy Reese-Lewis.
And those were all Fund 1?
All Fund 1.
Jeez.
And so great companies.
Yeah.
So basically put us on the map, and then started generating returns that put Utah on the map. And other people started coming in, and we woke up the local investors too, like, who are those guys? So we started creating competition in the local marketplace. And then we raised the second fund, started deploying that. And during the second fund, one of our investors came to us and loved what we're doing. Said, any strategy in the world, where do you want to go? We'll back you on another strategy. So we spent a year researching all the markets in the world, and they're looking for outside the United States. And so we did every country in the world, and then we looked for over 50 million people, over 75 billion GDP. And they came up with a list of 13 countries, and then we did a deep dive on those 13. Look at the dynamics of the market, capital formation, and ended up choosing Mexico growth equity as a strategy. I knew nothing about this.
Yeah.
My mom was born and raised in northern Mexico, and I was kind of against the idea because I thought it was kind of sleepy and backwards and corrupt at the time, and I just thought, I don't want to do that. But the data said this will be a really great opportunity. So we ended up putting together a growth strategy for Mexico, of all places, and created Alta Growth Capital. One of our team members went down there, Scott McDonough, hired 2 local guys, and I was the 4th. And I was on the investment committee. And we just started buying companies in Mexico. And then during that process, the Mexican government came to me and said, would you help us create our first venture fund in Mexico? And I'm like, can anybody else do it? Because you have to be local to play. You cannot be remote. You're on the ground. And as I chatted through the process, I felt impressed that we should go do this. And so we created the first tech fund in the country of Mexico. And there was a family office at the time, and there was another fund that was left over from something else, but really the first focused tech fund in the country called Alta Ventures. And we started deploying capital. And it was Mexico and the Americas. So it was not just Mexico, because I didn't think Mexico had enough going at the time. There was really not a lot going on, really, and it wasn't a very well developed ecosystem. So we ended up doing CLIP, which is the first. It's like the Square of Mexico, and it was a competitor with Square. We called Jack Dorsey, and he came out to Mexico and said, "Are you going to bring Square to Mexico?" He goes, "Nope, go for it. We might buy you in the future." So we did Square, and then we ended up doing a couple of unicorns in Argentina. We did a company called Technisys, Mike Santos, sold it for $1.1 billion to SoFi, and then we did another company called Muro, Mariano Suarez, and then Pata Hutard, and that company's worth over $2 billion now.
So you were doing unicorn exits down there
in South America.
Wow.
We invested in 3 Argentinian companies, and 2 became unicorns. And then out of that fund, I did Angel Studios back in the Utah.
Yeah.
And nobody in their right mind at the time, other than me, because I really wanted to disrupt Hollywood, would have done that deal.
Yeah.
Because it was more of a lawsuit than a startup. When Neil and Jeff kind of pitched me the idea, I said, that kind of feels like a lawsuit rather than a startup. But after we get through the lawsuit, can we go make movies?
Yeah.
And I got my Angel shirt on today.
I was going to say, I see it. I'm invested in Angel as well, actually.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
thank you. You and 75,000 other people.
Mm-hmm.
It was the largest number of shareholders in the history of the stock market to go public. When we went public on the New York Stock Exchange last month, and New York or NASDAQ have never had that many shareholders on a cap table to go public. And so,
did you do Reg CFs? Is that how you got so many on?
We did a Reg C and Reg A's. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Reg CF crowdfunding, and we also did Reg A.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how we did it.
Interesting.
So series of so I don't know. We got lost. Where were we?
Yeah. No. So you start going to South America, doing all these companies, coming back up. You're investing in both through the same fund?
Different funds.
Different
funds. So B-Spring, U.S.
Okay.
And then Latin America, we did Alta Growth, and then we did Alta Ventures. And then we got invited. So I physically moved my family to Monterrey, Mexico. And we created the first venture conference. We named the asset class Entrepreneur Capital because it was called Risk Capital, Capital de Riesgo. And it has such a negative connotation. Yeah. Nobody wanted to be associated with it. It was one of the reasons the asset class didn't take off. So we switched the name to something that was more attractive and did crowdsourcing of ideas and came up with Entrepreneur Capital and Capital Emprendedor, and took off. The president of Mexico created a cabinet-level position for Entrepreneur Capital, and they created funds from the Mexican government. And we went from 1 fund to over 100 venture funds in Mexico today.
Wow.
And then when I look back in the United States, when the venture industry took off in the U.S., and it didn't take off till the pension funds got into the asset class and started providing, massive amount of fuel behind the private equity markets.
Yeah.
So we went and met with the Undersecretary of Economy, the Secretary of Economy, under Minister of Finance, many of President Calderon's cabinet level, and helped change the rules of Mexico so they could invest into the asset class of private equity. And then we created the first fund of funds in Mexico called Northgate Mexico. So met with my good friend Jared Stone and Mark Harris and Tommy Vardell and Brent Jones, who ran Northgate in California. And they helped we created a new fund in Mexico called Northgate Mexico, which is the very first fund of funds. We raised $225 million public-private vehicle. Long story, crazy story. So we ended up launching that. And then we did 2 growth equity funds down there, venture fund of funds, about $500 million of capital over $500 million for Mexico.
Wow.
And then during the middle of that, I got invited to Peru to recreate our strategy in Peru. So our team member Rob McMillan moved down to Lima, and we did the first seed fund in Peru, Kickstart Peru. We did the first venture conference, first fintech conference, and long story short, we ended up partnering with the largest bank in Peru called BCP, or Grupo Credito, and created the first corporate venture fund in the country called Créalo. And so those guys are amazing. Love those guys. Then they are very effective. So we put money into the Andean region, Mexico, Peru, Colombia, Chile, Ecuador, and then we also do some Mexico.
Wow.
And and the strategy is to disrupt the bank. So companies that will allow the bank to be more competitive into the next century.
Wow.
And so that's been one of my joys of just basically doing capital formation. So we did it in Jamaica. We worked, and I just got back this last week from South America. So I spent a week in Uruguay and Santiago, Chile. And so I was the speaker at the first venture conference in Uruguay.
So you're still opening up countries to venture capital.
It's hard to get away from it.
Yeah.
It's kind of addicting. I'm working at Uruguay right now, and just met with them, and then we went to Chile, and I've been to Chile many times. We have several companies in Chile, and then I'm working on Africa right now.
And is the reason it's addicting? Do you see? Is the capitalist in you know that you're doing good inside the country and providing jobs? Like, what's the addictive? Listening to your service arm and the way you raise your children, there's a mission behind this. What's your mission in doing this?
Yeah, well, I sound stupid when I say this, so forgive me. I don't mean to be boss, but these are impossible things I didn't think I'd ever accomplish. But we have 3 family missions. It's cure cancer, end poverty, and disrupt Hollywood.
Angel Studios.
Yeah.
End poverty is the venture. Cancer, charity arm, I'm assuming, somewhere.
Yeah, we have a cancer foundation nonprofit. My wife was diagnosed with a terminal cancer called multiple myeloma as we're living in Mexico. And so she ended up getting 2 bone marrow transplants while we lived there. Well, she came back to Huntsman Cancer Institute. And when she got through that, we treated her cancer like a startup. Said, all right, this hasn't been cured. What are the root cause problems? Let's go after those. And we created the largest cancer foundation in the world for her cancer in terms of number of patients served. And it's probably the most innovative thing I've ever done.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
We put a software team inside of a cancer foundation, and we've integrated now with 4,600 U.S. hospitals. So we pull the data from the cancer patients into a central location, and we create a personal health record, a curing record for the patient, as opposed to the electronic health record, which is a billing record. And then we aggregate the patient data, and then we provide services back on top of the data. So match them to clinical trials using AI, match them to treatment options, match them to their genetic cancer twins. All the people in the system look exactly like me. And then we connect them to them via social media channel, a private social media channel. And then we provide all the data to researchers for free. So it takes upwards of 2 years to get a patient into a clinical trial.
Yeah.
And Jenny has reduced it to 30 days.
Wow.
So she's able to get studies done for free and help companies and pharma companies get people in clinical trials. So she has 84 people that work on her cure team, engineers, PhDs, researchers. Anyways, it's amazing what she's doing.
That is incredible.
She runs that.
How long ago was she diagnosed?
15 years ago.
With terminal cancer?
5-year median survival on this cancer, and she's had 2 transplants. She had experimental CAR T therapy, and we have a cancer vaccine company that we have licensed or purchased. Actually, the assets and the technology came out of I probably shouldn't say the university, a prestigious university back east.
Yeah.
And we bought the technology out, and nobody wants to say it, but they missed the cure for cancer, so I'll just leave that out. So we licensed, and then we have a cancer vaccine now that we're going into phase 2 clinical trials with for Jenny's cancer.
Wow.
So that's, so because Jenny has cancer, a lot of people have benefited. And so she serves literally 40 different blood cancers now, and tens of, if not hundreds of thousands of people with her.
You're living all 3 missions. That's really, really cool.
Yeah.
That is incredible. That's incredible. Well, congratulations. I mean, you guys put a mission on the board, decided to serve, and are living it out. And money magnifies. Yeah,
and it allows you to have the freedom to go just like, that's a stupid idea. Let's go do it.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to back me on this idea, so let's go try it out.
Question for you, because I know that you did a ton of Reg CFs and Angels. You had more shareholders going public than ever. I preach democratizing private markets to the everyday individual. Mm-hmm. What is your thoughts on venture capital slowly reaching the everyday person? Do you think there is a realistic future where everyone can get access to this asset class and truly democratize it? Or do you feel like it's going to stay tight circles where the best deals never get outside those circles?
A few people have made pretty good runs at this.
Yeah.
Sweater Ventures created their very first fund focused on
I'm actually rolling out a fund with them here in about 2 months.
Yeah, so allowing people to come in and do that. And Sweater came into my one of my companies, ISO Talent.
Oh, cool.
And and so that was fun to watch that innovation that happened there.
Yeah.
The crowdfunding regulations have opened up a lot.
They have.
But it's complicated.
Yeah.
It's really complicated. It provides like a lot of overhead to the companies. And so they have to really realize, like, we had to go public because we had so many shareholders on our cap table. We were forced to go public.
Yeah.
So we were publicly reporting 2 years before we actually were trading.
Yep.
And so it's just a matter of time before we were trading. So I love what's happening. Going back to the Kickstarter days and getting, crowd sourcing capital for T-shirts.
Yeah.
And now on the capital markets, I think Angel used it very effectively. The crowd, the customers, and the viewers became the investors on the cap table, creating a nice locked-in partnership. And for a consumer company, it was genius what the Harmons did there.
The CPG world, I think, can utilize CFs, Reg CFs, so much better for that exact purpose.
Yeah. So if it's a consumer play, I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Because people like to see, feel, and touch the products they're investing into.
They want to walk into Costco and see it on the shelf and say, I invested in that.
Makes a ton of sense.
Yep.
It's a harder play for products they don't understand until the markets get more sophisticated.
Yep.
But on the consumer play, I think it is the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's a win-win-win.
And it's one of my favorite things that Angel did, watching it from the outside. And I mean, I invested, but I think it was a really good proving ground for what can be. And to your point, accreditation laws are there for a reason. And I agree with the government's intent behind it of protecting investors and making sure they have a level of sophistication before they get into a venture capital deal. And there is a case to be made that the everyday person is not going to understand a B2B SaaS company, AI SaaS company, and truly be able to know whether they should invest or not. They're just not sophisticated enough to underwrite that deal.
But they are the experts on if you like a movie or not.
Yes, exactly.
They are there's no other expert.
Yep.
The VC is not going to get it.
Yep.
So it's the smartest money you can get on a consumer play. Like, I like that olive oil.
Yep.
I like that, that cookie or whatever. I get it. So early validation, and then fuel, and then sticky loyal customers.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting. And companies are staying private longer than ever. I mean, we Americans used to have small cap stocks. We don't even really have small cap stocks anymore in the grand scheme of things, just because you've got companies, $100 billion companies are sitting around private. And so,
and the large institutional investors just keep piling more money into them and holding on to them. And so, it's interesting.
It's an interesting dynamic that will be interesting to watch go.
So I think it's a win for everybody. And it feels like the right fit of capital for the right product.
Yep.
And my poverty mission, I have, any job's a good job. So any job we're creating is good. But opening up capital markets was part of that. But on the other side, we have, we have a job platform we're creating and going global with it. And probably, I don't know if it's a great fit for individuals. I wouldn't mind having them on. But one of the challenges you have in these companies is that the institutional investors don't want a lot of individuals on their cap table when they come in. And so there's a fight between the institutions who want to keep the individuals off and the individuals who want access to it. And so you have to really think about how you're going to put together your financing strategy before you start bringing hundreds or thousands of individuals on your cap table.
Yeah, it'll be fascinating. I mean, you just mentioned Sweater. Their interval fund methodology will be interesting.
Groundbreaking. It's groundbreaking.
It'll be interesting. So I'm actually, assuming allowed to talk about it, going to roll out a fund. Like, I've got prospectus with the SEC. We're going through the whole thing. I'm going to partner with Sweater on it. Once again, mission driven. I want to do it. But it's going to be fascinating to go into these rooms trying to get allocation in the top deals and then tell them, hey, like this is an interval fund behind it. Some of them will love it. The right companies will be like, you mean I can get a single person on my cap table, but have 10,000
you
behind
solve
it.
a problem that I have, which is if I put 100, if I do 100 unaccredited investors on my cap table,
Yeah.
there's some investors that will not invest into me.
Yeah.
Angel, that was our strategy. We
Yeah.
just leaned into it and
Yeah.
didn't care, and it was the right thing to do at every level. But if you could come into an interval fund and create a fund that gives me one limited partner.
Yep.
Sorry. If you give me one limited partner, then I can syndicate. And I've already proven that. So I have a company that I've taken sweater money into, and I've raised institutional capital next to it.
They don't care.
100% fine, not an issue.
Good.
But if I show up with 1,000
Yeah.
unaccredited investors on my cap table, they're going to look at me cross-eyed and go, what's going on here?
Yep.
Are we going public right now?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think I think it actually is the right way to play it, and it's a win for everybody. It gives people access, and it also allows them to use your expertise on deal picking. And
Yeah. Fascinating. Well, your entire mission, the mantra towards money, ability to see the future and predict where markets are going is pretty incredible.
That's kind of you. It's
I network a lot in this Utah area just because played college ball here. I live in Idaho. I feel like I'm here all the time. I don't want to say you fly under the radar, but you do to an extent for how prolific your investing has been. So
on purpose.
Yeah, good on you. That's incredible. So I ask the same like 5 or 6 questions to every single guest at the end.
Mm-hmm.
It's fascinating because you can line them all up and everyone answers it so differing. These are meant to be a rapid fire, so I'll kind of fire through them, but curious kind of your answers to some of these. If you had to start a business today and you only had $5,000 to your name, what business would you start?
So I just gave a keynote in Uruguay and Santiago, Chile. And my 18-year-old, I'll give you 2 quick answers.
Yeah.
My 18-year-old came up with this idea. It's a parenting app between kids and their parents and chores and accountability app. And we have a family startup grant program. We'll give you $5,000 to do any idea. And if it doesn't work out, it's a forgivable loan. And if it does work out, you put me on the cap table, you can pay me back at no interest. So I offered my 18-year-old $5,000 because I don't need your money, Dad. He coded it using Claude from Agentic, 2 weeks, 10,000 lines of code, connecting with the parental controls on the iPhone, very sophisticated.
Jeez.
His older brother, who's 30, gave him a little bit of coaching, and he finishes this app. And I demoed this in Latin America. And I said, so they're like, can we get money? And I said, well, I don't know if you need money right now. You can do things that were impossible before. And so after my keynote, this one guy comes up to me and goes, I just quit my job to go build the app, and I'm raising money that your son did in 2 weeks. So the world is moving so fast. Yep. For 10,000 years, we're an agrarian economy. Then we go to the industrial. Now we're in the services, and then a knowledge-based economy, and then an AI economy. I think we're going to be in this knowledge-based economy for 10 years. I mean, this AI economy.
Yeah.
Then we're going to go to an agentic economy. And the agentic economy, the knowledge economy is we're leveraging our brain. The AI economy is we're leveraging our brain plus all the AI. The agentic economy, and the value comes still from us and our work. The agentic is robots are doing the work. And the value is going to flow back to the investors and the people on the cap table because there's no humans getting paid in these agentic businesses at scale. So if I'm going to create a business right now, it is going to be one of two. It's going to be an agentic business that positions me and my family for the future in terms of creating value in the future. Or I'm going to focus on a business that is leveraging proprietary data. Data is the new oil.
Yes.
And so AI can come up right to the edge of us, but it cannot pick what's in our brain. And so you think about you, and there's lots of things about you that has a lot of data around it, whether it's a financial, your financial stuff like Finicity and Plaid created your financial profile so you can get credit cards or financial applications very quickly. There's a date. People that have the dating apps, all the proprietary information. We have a job company called Obra, where we focus and basically leverage all this data and flip the model on its head, where the job finds you, just like a credit card shows up for MasterCard. You qualify for a MasterCard, well, you can qualify for the job. So we've basically created these AI businesses where we're focused on the data. But that's what I don't have to it's a great answer, but that's where I would focus right now, is basically proprietary data, because AI is going to eat everything else, and except it can't eat your proprietary data, or I would create an agentic company.
So smart. People think Tesla's valuation and NVIDIA's, all these companies' valuations are based on their cars. Let's use Tesla. It's not based on the car. It's based on the data that those cars can gather at mass, driving across the country. Every passenger they pass, every bike, they know where the pedestrians are walking. They know where the cars are going. They know what your habits are. They know what everyone's habits are. It's a data company.
The concentration of we don't have a good grasp on what's going to happen on the concentration of wealth, which is about to happen. So you better be on a cap table of somebody that is doing that, because that's where the value is going to be created.
Yep. Okay, question 2. I'll do worst first, then I'll let you do best. What is the worst investment you've ever made?
Go Cookie.
Go Cookie. Cookie company, I'm assuming?
There's 2. There's Cogito and Go Cookie. It's just kind of hard. Go Cookie was an angel deal.
Yeah.
And I got embarrassed in front of all my angel buddies, and I'll eat a deal, and it was a healthy cookie that didn't taste great. And I should have known when my analyst at my venture fund took a bite and spit it in the trash can. I probably should have just said
that's a decent warning.
Yeah. Jeff Curl, who went on to found Stance Socks and other companies. But probably the worst investment was I led a company called Cogito. And it was a tech platform that created a new kind of database called a graph database. And I syndicated the deal with several of the funds in Utah, and they had burned through $15 million. You couldn't get a product out the door. And so when we ended up trying to do a guard change there, the CEO kind of came unhinged. One of the VCs hired private bodyguards for themselves because they're sure that guy was going to come after them.
Wow.
And that CEO has since passed on. He's no longer around. But so I get to Mexico, and they're asking me about the same question, what's your best and worst deals? And they look at all my companies, and they said, that one right there, who picked the name on that? And I said, I don't know, the founder did. I said, why? He goes, that's the F word, right?
Oh, really?
So that makes a lot of sense. A lot of people got screwed on that deal. So there you go.
Wow,
so,
that's funny.
Worst deal ever.
Worst deal. Okay, what's the best investment you've ever made?
By far, Angel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Ancestry was amazing. I love Technisys. I love Mural. I mean, all great companies. But we're 150x on our money on Angel. 150x.
Wow.
I've never had a company that's done over 20, 25.
Yeah.
So, but that's not the important thing about it. The important thing is the mission we're having.
Yeah. It completed one of your missions.
Everybody would laugh at me and just say, oh, that's so funny. You have a better chance curing cancer than disrupting Hollywood. And we applied what Angel applied and what I apply at many of my companies is Clayton Christensen's disruption theory. And I'm meeting with the Clayton Christensen Institute next Monday, so I'm excited to go meet with Ann Christensen in the group. But it was one of my heroes. And so disruption theory says you go after unloved, underserved customers. So in the job market, who's more unloved than the unemployed person? In the cancer industry, it's the health industry, it's the patient. They don't even listen to you. I mean, they all have this infrastructure around you.
Yeah.
But and so in the movie industry, it's the audience. Hollywood doesn't give a rip what we think.
Yeah.
So we just basically wrapped ourselves around the audience, asked them what movies we should create and greenlight, and they are the only ones that can make the decision. And that's where the power of the model came from. Then we just put them on the cap table. So the power of the model, and I was wearing my Angel shirt around Latin America, and multiple people would come up to me in Uruguay and Chile, and they would just say, "I love your company. I love your business. I love The Chosen. I love what," and they just start rattling off from movies that we had created or supported, and Sound of Freedom. Sound of Freedom went global.
Yeah.
And they've created laws around the world for human trafficking, against human trafficking. And the impact that company is having as a force for good and basically bringing, representing light in the world is probably one of the more impactful things I've done today. So, my second would be Ancestry. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. What 3 pieces of advice would you give someone starting their entrepreneurial journey today?
Well, I wrote a book. Can I give a shameless plug for my book?
Please. Yes,
Okay.
of course.
I wrote a book called Nail It Then Scale It. And it was an observation of entrepreneurs that had a habit of winning. And so I co-authored with Dr. Nathan Furr, Stanford PhD in entrepreneurship, and taught at the U. Now he's teaching at INSEAD in France. And we just had observations of guys that had a habit of figuring it out and getting it right over and over. And so taking out your deal killer risk early in the process. Often you'll run through this process, you'll raise some money, and then you go launch, and you don't get the moment of truth till the end. So why don't you bring that moment of truth up front in the process? Have a conversation with your customer before you spent a nickel. You can even prototype stuff for free right now. You can, like my son, put a working prototype in somebody's hands and got the feedback. So get feedback as early as you can before you start scaling your business. So the number one reason for startup failure is premature scaling, running out of cash, or creating basically a commitment to a path that may not work. So you committed to the investors, and now you're on this death march because you didn't figure it out too early. So nail it before you scale it. The number one cause for startup success has nothing to do with that. I don't know if you want to guess what it is. What's the number one reason for startup success?
I would do something around the founder, but I don't know.
I love that.
I don't know.
I'm going to come back to that. I think that might be the best answer. The data shows it's timing.
The luck portion that every founder says when they exit. I got lucky.
I got lucky.
Yep.
Oh, this is a terrible idea until the technology arrives and it's a really good idea. So there's a question that VCs ask: why now? Why now is the right time to do this? Because it didn't work before.
Yeah.
And there's a confluence and convergence of factors that will make it, this is the good timing. So timing is the number one reason for success. Number one reason for failure is premature scaling. And years ago, I was in Israel, and I met with Jaime Perez, who was the son of Shimon Perez. And Jaime is, runs Patango and just a great guy. And I asked him this question. I said, how do you decide who do you invest into? And he said, I look at the light in the entrepreneur's eyes. And at the time, I thought, that's kind of a dumb answer. And then over the years, I've adopted that. And if you look at the intensity of the Harmon's eyes, Neil Harmon has these piercing, focused. He's looking through you, and his eyes are almost vibrating. So the intensity. Those are the guys who are going to walk through walls and get it done. So when I invest in a company, I know the product's not going to work. I know the numbers are off base. The market even may shift. The only thing I can count on is the founder. Are they going to stick with it? And are they going to give up? And we went through hell and back several times. We were shut down at least once at Angel, that will admit publicly, to zero. We were just shut down to zero. And it was on that day that the team decided they're going to launch the studio on that day and Dry Bar Comedy on that day. Dry Bar's now had 6 billion views of their content. Jeez. Largest comedy brand in the world. And so in the depth of this, you could have given up and your revenue went to zero, and you have an injunction from Disney to shut you down. That's the moment that they just dig deep. And so really it's the best answer is yours, is the founder. Mine is the second best answer, which is, timing, or just getting it right.
I love it. Okay, last question. If you were to look back at your career, and is there anything that you would change or any major lesson that you want to draw to that led as a pivot point for your success?
I was very good at creating value, like really good.
Yeah.
I wasn't as good as holding on to the value with through the partnerships, and so I love creating with teams. But one of the challenges that I've had is giving too much to team members that hadn't earned it yet, and they creating entitlement. In fact, I can manufacture entitlement in anybody. I'm really good at it. I'm a pro.
Yeah.
So my wife has forbidden me from taking on another partner. So I wish I had been better at not my partners are great. I just in terms of what you give at the right time and having people earn things as they go through this process. And so you don't put good people into bad structures.
Yeah.
And so I was a pro at putting good people into bad structures, and I earned a lot of the problems I created for myself. But I wish I had known those lessons earlier and created better dynamics around there, or maybe I think the corporate structure is a perfect structure. You know, corporations have been around for 100 years, but you can't look in Mexico and find a partnership that's been around for more than 5 years. So they're maintaining control and giving enough equity for the team members so they feel like they have ownership in this, but also creating the right hierarchy so they feel like they've earned it and they didn't steal it.
Yeah. I could pick your brain on that one for hours. I think every young entrepreneur that has started to glimpse into that world, I know I've got landmines that I'm about to walk on because I've already felt it in my short career that I can't imagine.
I can tell you everything to do wrong. I don't know how to do it right, but I can tell you everything to do wrong in terms of that. But giving when you create a company, like vest your ownership.
Yeah,
vest your ownership over time, and so it's theirs. If they quit, they walk away. They don't get to take it with them. But if they don't leave, they get to keep it. And so you want to create a trusted structure where they own it, and define it clearly up front, but also don't hand stuff out before they've earned it.
Yeah.
And otherwise, because they don't. There's this parable of the olive trees, and you have the branches and the roots.
Mm-hmm.
And when the branches outgrow the roots, the fruit is bitter. And so you have to have the roots. You have to have earned it before you can have the positive fruit. And so if you give the fruit too quickly, then they tip over. It becomes bad fruit. And there's a lot of nature has a lot of great metaphors for how to create value and hold on to the value.
I love that, Paul. Thank you. This has been super, super fun walking into this, listening to your story, and I'm sure everyone can pull a lot from this. So thank you.
Well, thanks for the invitation. It's very, very kind of you to have me on. Hopefully it was helpful, or there's something that might help somebody out there.
For sure. Thanks. If you love this conversation, you're going to love my conversation with Matt Ishbia. Click here to watch it.